Hey there! From my growing collection of plants, here is a list that I can fearlessly recommend even for beginners. First on the list is the Philodendron Florida Green because it is just such an all-around easy plant, not at all fussy. You get pretty lobed shaped leaves, grows nice and tall. Bright indirect light is optimal for its growth, and in terms of watering, I personally only water it once the soil is about 80% dry. So stick your finger in the pot or use a moisture meter if you will. Not really picky with humidity levels either. This summer was super dry for me and it's doing a-okay. I surprisingly find it to be a moderately fast grower. This one I have here would have been even taller had it not snapped. And because it is growing that fast, you'll need to put some support. Propagation is so easy, just cut below a node and stick it in water. You can then plant the propagations together with the mother plant as I have mine, so that you can have a bushier looking plant if you want. It is toxic to pets and humans, so do be aware of that. Next is another philodendron, the Billietiae. Billietiae. Don't let its looks deceive you. At first glance, you think that this plant requires some extra care, but the truth is, it really doesn't. It's got pretty narrow and long-shaped leaves, as well as a nice, smooth texture as well. I find that bright indirect light is optimal, just like the Florida Green, and I just water it when the soil has nearly dried out. Also not sensitive to low levels of humidity. My humidity over the summer was averaging at 20 degrees relative humidity, and as you can see, my Billietiae is doing perfectly fine. It is a slow growing plant in my experience. I've only had 2 leaves since I got it this spring, and as you can see, the third one is just about to unfurl. I have not propagated this yet, so I have no really comments on that, but do note that it is toxic to pets and humans, but still pleasantly surprised at how easy this plant is. Third on the list is another philodendron. It's the last one, I promise, and this one is the Painted Lady. Very easygoing plant, and its selling point is of course the beautiful leaf coloration looking like an oil painting and the red petiole and stem. I find that bright to medium indirect light works really well for them. Of course, you give them less light and they'll grow leggier, I think, but mine is pretty compact so far. I personally like to water them once the leaves start to look a bit droopy, so this plant is a bit more on the expressive side when they are thirsty. So once I see signs of droopiness, then I start to water it thoroughly. This one though will appreciate a bit more humidity. Over the summer, I found that it had a bit of a challenge trying to unfurl itself or unsheath itself, and so it would often get stuck. And if it takes too long for them to unfurl, then you will end up with some very wrinkly leaves, which is not a big problem for me, but just be aware of that. It is a moderate grower in my experience. I find that it is putting out a new leaf every couple weeks or so. I have not tried to propagate this so far, so no comments on that yet. But as like all philodendrons, this one is toxic to pets and humans as well. But nonetheless, a very easy plant. Now, you want a prayer plant, then Tenanthes are one of the easiest of the bunch. The Tenanthes setosa, when mature, can sport huge narrow leaves with the classic feather-like pattern. A super easy plant. Medium bright indirect light is perfect for them. They can thrive in even lower light conditions. Just don't expect them to grow fast in low light, but they do pretty well nonetheless. In terms of watering, just keep the soil consistently moist. I caution you to never allow it to fully dry out, or you'd risk getting crispy or brown tips. Unlike most plants in the prayer plant family, this one is less sensitive to lower humidity levels. But of course, being that it is part of that family, it will appreciate more humidity if you can give it. You can also easily propagate it by cuttings. Just make sure there is a node where the cutting is, and put it in water. I find it critical that you grow it only in water, otherwise the leaves will dehydrate pretty fast. After growing some roots in water, I then transferred mine into a perlite and vermiculite mix, and the result has been fantastic. Of course, it's not necessary, you don't have to do it that way. You can put it in soil if you want. In my case, I do just fill the vase with an inch or so of water and let the vermiculite soak up all that moisture so that it's providing consistent moisture throughout the roots. After just a month, the roots have just exploded in growth, and as you can see, it's already starting to put out new leaves. And it's also pet safe because it is non-toxic, so that's awesome. Another prayer plant on the list is the rattlesnake calathea. Very similar, if not identical, care to the Tenanthia setosa. Not fussy or demanding either. It's gorgeous looking with long and wavy shaped leaves and that classic reddish underside. I started mine as a baby plant in a 2-inch pot and I have since transferred it into a 4-incher. It is a moderate grower. I've seen mature specimens sporting huge narrow leaves. Bright to medium indirect light intensity works really well for them. And again, keep the soil consistently moist. Don't let it to dry out completely. But I find that they will appreciate a higher humidity level. If humidity is too low, you might get browning or crispy edges. Again, my summer was pretty dry, but all things considered, mine is looking pretty well. Can't say I've propagated yet, but the good news is it is completely pet safe. It's non-toxic. Next on the list is an Aglaonema, or commonly called the Chinese evergreen, and it really lives up to its name of evergreen because it is just such an easy plant. It's almost like a set and forget type of plant. Can be grown in bright to even low light situations. If you want to grow it faster, then of course give it more light. It is a moderately fast grower at higher light conditions. I personally water it once the soil has fully dried out, although I think it will appreciate a bit more frequent watering. Mine is looking a tad bit thirsty. It doesn't seem to care much about humidity conditions in my experience. It is, however, not pet friendly as it is toxic if ingested. Another great thing about Aglaonemas is they come in a variety of cultivars. This one that I have is actually pretty rare to find, the plain green color. It seems silver and red variegated ones are what's commonly available. I love ferns, so I'll be damned if I did not include a fern in this list, and the one I'm recommending is the Boston fern because it is easy, you guys. At least one of the easiest among the fern family. If you've never tried ferns, then the Boston fern is one of the best to start with. I find that medium indirect lighting is best for them. Higher light intensities would make them a bit droopy in my experience. The critical factor is to not let the soil dry out. Keep it consistently moist. Unlike other ferns, this one is more forgiving if you underwater them. You'll have a yellow frond or two, but this will not be a major freak out. Also not too fussy about humidity. Of course, being a fern, it will appreciate higher humidity levels, but this one tolerates low humidity levels pretty well. Not a fast grower, but a consistent grower, and also pet safe as it's non-toxic. And if you're looking for a pothos alternative, then the one I can recommend is the Monstera siltepecana because it is so easy as well. You treat it pretty much like it were a pothos in terms of care. A very easy plant and a super fast grower. This was the first plant that woke up for me during the spring season. The younger leaf sports a silver coloration, and interestingly, it loses the silvery color as the plant matures. I was wondering why mine had lost the silveriness, and after some deep dive on the internet, I found that this is actually normal. That means that the plant has matured, so this is just one consideration. Bright to medium indirect light intensity works really well for them, and I like to water it just before it has completely dried out. Also not fussy about humidity levels either. Again, it is a fast grower, and because it is such a vigorous grower, I highly recommend that you are feeding it when it is actively growing. So use your fertilizer of choice to feed it. In my experience, it will continue to push for growth, and if it doesn't have enough nutrient, then it will sacrifice the older leaves in order to feed the new growth. Very easy to propagate as well. Just make cuttings and stick it in water. Since it is a monstera, it is toxic if ingested, so beware of that. I really do stand by how easy these plants are, and I think they are pretty much commonly available at this point. They are not rare plants by any means, so that's good because that means it's accessible to you, and they're also very affordable. They are not expensive plants. I definitely want to try some other plants that I don't have in my collection yet. So what would you recommend from your collection? I'm curious to know. Take care for now, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.